Hey, Street Talk and Other Stuff. Thanks for tuning in this fine Monday morning. Very glad you're here. And I welcome all of my people who aren't from the local area, because I know a lot of people around the country are watching the show today because of the content that we're going to discuss. So, I want to tell you, on October 12th, 2023, my wife's heart stopped. We don't know why. It wasn't really a heart attack. Because there was no blockages. We still do not know why, but it just stopped. Now, unfortunately, well, I was at work, had a meeting to go to, and probably wasn't going to be home for a number of hours. And I thank God she was with a friend of mine. She was having dinner with this friend. You're going to meet him in a few minutes. She walked in. She said, "I feel faint," and she collapsed and literally died. This led up to 2 weeks. Well, but before that, aid crews were barely able to get her heart started again. Led to 2 weeks over at the University of Washington Hospital. She's doing fine now, but in that interim, between the time she collapsed and the time aid crews have arrived, a couple of people saved her life, and we're going to meet those today. But this is going to be good, so you stick around. Street Talk and Other Stuff. We will be right back.
When you buy tires at Les Schwab, you're getting more than just tires. You're getting America's best tire warranty, 60-day satisfaction guarantee, no hassle road hazard protection, and free maintenance for the life of your tires. So if something happens to your tire on the road, we'll fix it, or we'll replace it, no questions asked. Other places make you pay extra for that kind of protection, but at Les Schwab, it's included with every set of tires, because more warranty means less worry, and nobody stands by their tires like Les Schwab. Get more from Les.
A ductless unit from Carrier can keep anyone comfortable. Take Shelly, for instance. She finds me time in her new attic-turned-home gym. And with her Carrier ductless unit, the temperature is always perfect, no matter how intense her workout gets. Carrier. Total comfort, totally happy.
Turn to the experts, Carrier and Alpine Air. Heat and air, call Alpine Air.
Okay, we're back, and I'm very, very happy to introduce my new friend, Cassidy Wisemore.
Thank you.
Now, Cassidy is a Rivercom 911 dispatcher. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. I'm also very happy to introduce one of my best buddies, Mike Mastin. Now, Mike and I have been friends for more than 50 years. We're both New Jersey boys. And Mike was the person who Rosie was with when she collapsed, okay? Mike began CPR, called Cassidy. Cassidy stayed with him for what seemed like eternity until the AIDS crew showed up. But just tell us a little bit about yourselves before we get into the nitty-gritty of this. But go ahead, tell us about Cassidy a little bit, you know?
Well, I'm Cassidy. I'm 24. I grew up in Leavenworth. Been with Rivercom for about 2 years, but a dispatcher for about 3. And absolutely love my job. Grew up with my dad as a cop in the area. If he would have stayed on with the department a little longer, I would have dispatched for him, so that's unfortunate. So I grew up with all the stories and hearing about all the emergencies that he handled, and was just fascinated by it all, and eventually landed with this job.
Oh,
I
cool.
love it, yeah.
All right, Mike, a little bit about yourself. So.
Yeah, I don't have that big of a story, but I lived here in Wenatchee some years ago for about 9 years. and then I went over to the west side. Recently, for about a year now, I've been back in Wenatchee, and Mike and Rosie have a small house behind their house, and I rented from them. That's where I live, and that's where all of this happened. So we can go into that story.
Okay, so go ahead. What happened?
Okay, so as I explained, the big house is here, and then the little house is here, and there's not a lot of distance in between, maybe, I don't know,
25 feet.
25 feet, let's say. So Mike had to work that night, and I was making dinner.
And I had a dinner meeting, so I wasn't going to be home for a couple hours.
Right. And so then, so Rosie came over. We were going to have something. I was making this dinner, and she had a bag of grapes in her hand. She said, "I didn't have time to make a salad, but I brought these grapes." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And she came in the kitchen. She put her hands on the counter, and all of a sudden she said, "I feel," and she started to fall. Now, I was right behind her, so thank goodness I caught her, because she would have hit her head. And I thought maybe she just fainted, So I've been trained a little bit in this, so I'm doing, Rosie, come on. But she's not coming back. And then I got a little bit concerned, what's going on here. So what I don't remember, I know I called Cassidy, who now I know it's Cassidy. I called 911. Cassidy got on the phone, but I don't remember if I was already doing compressions or not. But
Because you've been trained in CPR.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so Cassidy gets on, kind of explains the situation to me, and then says, "I'm going to stay with you and count things off." And she was 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just kept doing that. And in the meantime, she was sending what turned out to be the entire army of aid people, and it did feel like it was a long time. I was kneeling on the floor, and it was a cramped and difficult situation. And of course, at this point, I'm very concerned about Rosie because she's not reviving. She did have a little bit of, I would call it bubble breath once in a while, so I knew she was still there. But I think by the time the EMTs arrived, it's questionable whether she had a pulse or not.
I'll get to that in a minute. Okay, your side of it, okay?
So I answer 911 call, and he gives me the address, telling me what's going on. Tells me, this lady's not feeling well, don't know what to do, and start asking questions. We have a couple questions that determines whether we need to start CPR or not. So
And there's a whole procedure you've been trained to go through.
absolutely, yeah. We have cue cards, so any symptom that they give us, we can look up our cue cards so that we don't get lost, or if we start to get choked up, or if we start to get anything, we have things that we can read off to guide us. So ask the main two questions, which determines if we need to do CPR. Is she awake? No. Is she breathing normally? No. Okay, so we're going to get her flat on her back, and then we're going to start some chest compressions. And we have a metronome that counts us off so that we can just walk them through it. Walk them through step by step, and aid crew shows up, and that's about all that happens.
But all the time you're talking to him, you're not just talking to Mike, you're getting other people en route, right?
Absolutely.
How do you do that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. When we answer a call, there's a lot more that happens in the room. And so I answer the call, and as soon as my coworkers hear that I'm starting to walk somebody through a CPR call, there's so much happening in the background. So I hear one of my coworkers say, "I have your radio," because we're one of the agencies in the state that does both call taking and dispatching. So while I'm on the phone, I also have radio that I'm taking care of. So I'm talking to the police officers, or I'm talking to the firemen, or different agencies. So I could be talking to you on your emergency and having police officers doing traffic stops, or going to a domestic violence call, or going to a bar fight, or something else happening.
Right.
Meanwhile, I'm on the phone with you.
Right.
So it's courtesy in our dispatch center to pick up the person's radio that is doing CPR on the phone, just
Sure.
so that we can have undivided attention with our caller and walk them through hopefully a seamless
Right.
procedure. So somebody picked up my radio, and I had undivided attention with him and the patient, walked it through, and meanwhile, my other coworker is doubled on a radio, has my radio and hers. So she's working with double radio. Another coworker is sending an ambulance, so she's sending out the tones, she's talking to the firemen, she's talking to the ambulance crew, telling them what's going on, talking to them as they're arriving. It's a full team effort, and I
Sure.
feel truly, truly blessed to be able to be on a team so great as
Okay.
Rivercom. My team is amazing.
Well, between the two of you, how was your communication? I mean, what did it mean to you to have somebody else on either side of the line? I mean, you're in a different circumstance, but
Well, for me, it was, I'm just grateful that Cassidy was there and she stayed. I mean, I haven't had any experience with what the dispatcher would do, so that you stayed with me was a huge help. And obviously I wasn't, I wasn't going to stop, but it was, there's a lot of pressure in that situation.
Sure.
Absolutely.
And so I knew that you were there. If something else happened, I would, be able to. It's too bad I didn't know your name. I say, hey, lady, what am I supposed to do now?
It's okay.
But so yeah, it was very important that Cassidy was on the phone with me,
no.
and just kind of counting off that, reassuring me that somebody was going to show up. After a couple of hours of.
Well, it seemed like that. I
Yeah,
think it was
it
only
does.
like 6 minutes,
6
but
minutes, yeah.
it's, not to mention this, but at our age, being on our knees that long.
It was really hard. Yeah. And I had,
gosh,
it was
I
funny,
can't
I had a
believe
pot of pasta on the stove. It
Yeah.
was still going. When one of the guys got there, they turned the stove off. I mean, it's just a whole. It's a whole experience, and the aftermath. I know we're going to talk about that, but that was a whole other experience.
All right, well, we'll get to that in a minute. But you're on the phone with Mike. What's going through your head? I mean,
These-
you've been trained.
yeah.
You know what to do. You know that other people are picking up, like you said, your other radio calls and dispatching the aid crews.
Yeah.
So,
Unfortunately, these kind of calls aren't uncommon. There's a lot of medical emergencies every day, so we're trained on these. It was just another one of those calls, but I don't know why this one stuck out a little bit more. I kept asking one of the other dispatchers, "Hey, did we figure out the outcome of that call? Did we figure out the outcome of that call?" And 90% of the time, we don't have the outcomes, and unless we call the
Sure.
ambulance crew or we don't really have anything. We just have to go on to the next call. And so when I was told that it was a life save, that it was a good outcome, that was very encouraging, because unfortunately that's not always the case. So
so that's cool. So, how did this end for you? I mean, did Mike say, "Hey, the aid crews are here," and then you're done, or what? How do you terminate that and then go back to?
yeah. So while I'm on the phone with him, my other coworker will say, "Hey, aid crew's arriving," so I can encourage him. They're arriving. It's going to take them a second to get all of their stuff, but they're going to be in shortly as your door unlocked. And so working with him on that, but keeping him going on some
Sure.
chest compressions while they come in. And usually I can hear them coming in the background of the call, or I'm pretty sure on this one I asked you, "Are they with you?" And then at that point we disconnect, and that's usually
Okay.
the end of what we know.
All right.
So this is very special to be able
And
to
how was it for you when they showed up? Did they know where to go to come to the rear of the house and not to the
Well, I think I told Cassidy
did.
that it was the house behind the house.
Okay.
And that the gate was open, so all of that was good. As far as when they got there, it was a moment of relief, but it was also a moment of concern.
Sure.
Are they here? Did I do okay? Is she okay? Are they going to be able to, they could take over, but were they going to be able to help her? And so that was that. And then, of course, the next thing I did, I had to get out of there, and then the next thing I did was call you.
Right. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute.
Okay. So yeah, that was, and again, I can't say it enough. It was so reassuring to have you there,
Thank you.
kind of with me,
Yeah.
You did wonderful. You did not argue. You did not push back. You were very.
That reminds me, but go ahead.
I had a very good feeling. I had a very good feeling about your call because you were so on it.
What was I going to say? Are you sure you're doing this right?
You wouldn't, okay, having, police experience and going on calls like this, you couldn't believe the way people argue. The 8 crew saying, hey, you need to do, no, I'm not. I had a guy come out of a house once, his throat was slit, literally. He's pouring blood. I'm trying to tell him, just lay down so we can, no, I need to. Sorry, that just struck a nerve when you said he didn't argue. It's, oh my gosh.
No, we really, that's what's unique about today, actually, face to face, because we were a team.
Yeah.
For, you say 6 minutes, I say 2 hours. and it was successful. And we'll talk about that.
So, okay, we were talking with Cassidy Wisemore. She's a dispatcher, 9/11 dispatcher. And my buddy Mike Maston, he's a brother from another mother. We're talking about the time they worked together to literally save my wife's life. So we're going to take a quick break, come back, talk to them some more, but Street Talk and other stuff. You stick around. We will be right back.
Most of us are in touch with the internet in one way or another all day long. A fast, secure connection matters. It keeps us entertained, informed, and in touch. Locatel cares about your connection. We know strong, reliable internet with your choice of speed makes life better. If you need fast, reliable internet, or maybe an upgrade, or you just have questions, connect with us by visiting Locatel.com or call 509-888-8888 today.
Now there are even more reasons to meet at the Pybus Market. Outdoor dining and tastings, the fabulous Farmers Market, Saturday artisans on the concourse, and your favorites all week long. No matter the reason, it's always time to meet at the Pybus Market. Pybus Market, where community meets.
The agents of Kennedy Real Estate Group are committed to providing the ideal client experience. We believe in the power of relationships. Why? Because we don't just work here, we live here. From the nonprofits we serve, the parks where we play, and the local businesses we support, our team understands the value of living in the Wenatchee Valley. Let's begin your real estate story.
Tour Moses Lake just a gas tank away. With its abundance of outdoor activities, Moses Lake is a great place to visit. From fishing and boating to exploring the city's attractions, there is no shortage of things to do. Whether you're enjoying any one of the variety of restaurants with the family or an adventure-filled day with friends, Moses Lake has something for everyone. Tour MosesLake.com and start your adventure today.
Okay, we're back. Street Talk and other stuff. Talking with Cassidy Wisemore, a dispatcher with Rivercom 911 Dispatch, and my buddy Mike Maston, who worked together as a team on October 12th of 2023 when my wife literally died. They kept her alive until the aid crews got there, and they have my eternal sincere thanks and gratitude. But you said earlier, Cassidy, that the vast majority of these calls, you never know how they work out.
Correct.
How did you find out about this one, and what was the result of your interaction with my family? So,
a few months go by, and I think it was beginning of 2024, actually, that I was just working a normal shift.
Wait a minute, a few months? Because I actually wrote Doug a letter saying thanks. Didn't he tell
that came through, yes, of a thank you, and the award came out later.
Okay, okay.
But I was working a normal shift, and my managers and people above us like to embarrass us, so they'll come out on the dispatch floor and award us in front of everybody and make our faces all red, and we're not people that like center of attention, so it's quite embarrassing. But I'm very grateful to have that recognition. I really appreciate that, and just announcing what happened, and they'll either read it off or they'll have us read it or something, and yeah, just a fun
So
little
is it
moment.
like a written award, or is it a
Yeah.
plaque you get?
It's a written award.
Is there any monetary?
It's a written award. Usually it has notes on it from our medical consultant. We have a doctor at the ER that reviews all of our cardiac calls. It's
Right.
usually calls that have CPR involved in them. So he'll review all of those and determine what criteria his criteria is a life save or not, and then he gives that to our director, and then they present it to us.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right. So, it's just, it was interesting. Like I said, I was at work and was going to a dinner meeting. I wouldn't be home for hours. Had Mike not been there, but he called me and he said, "You need to come home right away. Something happened to Rosie." And the way we go back and forth, I thought he was kidding. But then I could tell the tone of his voice, So the whole way home, I'm saying, drive careful, don't. And I pull up to Cascade Street, and it's like Christmas out there. I mean, fire trucks, ambulances. The cops weren't there for some reason. No one in the doggone police department. But it was freaky,
Sure.
I get there, and I'm standing in the backyard. There's like 20 people in this little house, and I hear them saying, "Do you have a pulse? No. Do you have a pulse? No." But how it worked out, they did revive her. She did need to be revived again in the ambulance and again in the emergency room a number of times. And when they finally got her in a room at the hospital, Dr. Weber, who has my eternal gratitude as well, was there, and they must have had her hooked up to like 20 bottles of stuff. And I said, "Well, I think I need to run home and get something." And Dr. Weber just reached over and took my hand and said, "No, you need to stay." I said, but she's doing well. So, and again, you came to the hospital that night, Mike. But
with the bag of grapes.
But you weren't able to make it to the home in Seattle. What was it like when about 2.5 weeks later we all came home?
Well, for me, one of the aspects of this whole thing was your family is connected to at least one of the EMTs that came to the house and took over for me.
Right.
And he said, your friend saved Rosie's life. Well, I couldn't embrace that, to be honest. I was waiting for Rosie to be Rosie again. And so I just I honestly just put things off, and it was a little embarrassing when people would say, "Thank goodness you saved Rosie," blah, blah, blah. And then when she did finally come home, I was amazed.
Yeah.
And she was already in pretty good shape. And as I've said to Mike a number of times, there's now a bond. I mean, Rosie, I've known Rosie almost as long as, well, not as long as I've known Mike.
Well, you were in my wedding.
Yeah,
You've
a
known
lot
her,
of years. But there's a new bond there with a person that literally died in my arms and then revived and is now playing cards with us every night. So, and sometimes she wins.
That's a good one. We were at the hospital when she was able to get out of bed and come out into the waiting room. She was playing, what game was it? Uno. She was playing Uno with my grandson Luca and my son-in-law Ted, and Ted laid a draw 4 card on her. If you know what Uno is,
yeah.
You try to get rid of your cards. So Ted lays this draw 4 card on her, and she looks at him and said, "Ted, I almost died, and you gave me that card."
Oh, I love that.
She's got a good sense of humor. So.
Oh.
But, and how'd you feel hearing about this and how it all worked out? And today you're kind of getting a little bit more of the story that she's doing well, blood pressure's up.
Yeah.
So.
I remembered that call, and like
Yeah.
I said, I asked about the outcome pretty consistently, and nobody had anything. So when I got that, I remembered it immediately, and I remembered thinking I had a good feeling about that call.
No.
And that's why I kept asking about it. That doesn't always happen. And so I was very encouraged when that
Well,
came
never
through.
doubt, dear, you made a significant difference in a vast number of people's lives. I mean, not just mine, not just Mike's, but my wife is one of the sweet, softest, hardest people you would ever meet. There are many, many people that her life is touched positively. So if you're ever feeling depressed, if you're ever questioning anything, if you're ever not feeling perfect, you can just say, I have done a tremendous job in saving the life of a person who has a huge reach in the rest of the family and community.
Thank you.
So
And I,
it's my
again,
job.
want to recognize that it was a team effort on that with my teammates and with you. So. Yeah.
Well, and you know, the scene at the house was unbelievable. Like Mike said, he pulled up and there's aid trucks everywhere. But in the behind there's high tension, and you know, like we were both hearing, you know, you got a pulse, and they're just working away, and the level of it's not excitement, it's the level of activity
Well,
and
intensity
energy.
and focus.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's
is
focused on what they're
amazing.
doing.
Yes.
Yeah, and it makes you feel, you know, so glad that there is that whole support effort out there.
Yeah, we have some of the best responders in the Valley. I truly believe that we have some of the best aid crew and firemen, and love them all. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that.
No, I have a great team. Well, if I can say, I very much appreciate what you've done. I'll hug you later.
You're gonna make me cry.
Well, that's good, but hey, okay. Gosh, I want to thank you both.
Thank you.
From the bottom of my heart. Okay, and Rosie would thank you too, but she doesn't remember any of this. She says, it was great. I don't remember anything. I remember waking up in the hospital and I thought everything was fine. You know?
She said she has no memory from about noon of that day forward, and which is, you know.
Which is good, you know. I mean, geez, I mean, I remember, I mean, being with her in the hospital, what they're doing. There was one time where they had her body temperature lowered because it helped not put so much pressure on your heart. I could see her shivering, and I'm, oh God, what are you doing to my wife? You know, but she doesn't remember that, so thank God. Okay, we're talking with Cassidy Wisemore, Rivercom 911 dispatcher, my buddy Mike Maston, and we're going to take a quick break, come back and say goodbye, but hey, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you in a minute. Street Talk and Other Stuff. We'll be right back. So.
At Confluence Health, our mission is clear: to provide exceptional care for our community. We believe in healthcare that's personal and local because we're just like you, members of this great community.
We are Confluence.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
Local care by and for our community.
We are Confluence.
It's vacation season. While a trip to Hawaii sounds great, we know what you really want is an inflation vacation. That's why Abby's feeds a group of 4 to 6 people for less than $26. Enjoy an inflation vacation at Abby's. You can be a superhero tonight and treat your family to Abby's famous hometown hero. This giant features our classic pepperoni, tasty Italian sausage, and crisp green peppers, all layered together for a legendary feast. Don't miss this July special pizza at a very special price.
Okay, we're back. Street Talk and Other Stuff. I want to say my heartfelt thanks to my buddy Mike Maston. Mike, thank you. Cassidy, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me on.
We have got a great team of first responders, of dispatch folks here in Wenatchee. They're lifesavers, and we appreciate that. But thanks for tuning in today. I want to tell you, next week I will have the irrepressible Jamie Donegan on to talk about Hot August Nights. It's going to be a show, Rock of Ages. It's going to be an incredible show. My son, Ted Scanlon, will be playing guitar. So you want to tune in for that. So we will see you next week. Street Talk and Other Stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Bye-bye.